Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us tonight. So my name is Sue Kelly, and I am a behavior therapist with the Community Education Service as part of the Child and Youth Mental Health Program, and I've been with the hospital for a little over 20 years now, and in my field for just about 40 years. So I will let my colleague introduce herself.
My name is Michelle. I'm a child life specialist, a mother of two teenagers, and I've worked for Hamilton Health Sciences for over 20 years. So welcome. Okay,
Here, Michelle?
sure. Okay, so
Did you get restarted okay, Haruka?
Yes, everything is okay. I hope it is on your end as well.
It is perfect. Thank you
yeah,
very
we're
much.
good. Okay, so snow globe of stress. When we don't feel in control, then this feels like we're stuck in the snow globe. When our feelings are when we feel our needs are not being met or we feel unable to manage or cope, this is kind of what happens. And everything just seems overwhelming. All the emotions are very high. And even the little things in that moment feel out of reach or really big. So this is a way to think about it for yourself and also for your children. We're not making really good decisions in this moment. And we're not looking, it doesn't, it's just like a snow globe. We can't see clearly. So in that moment, we're not making great decisions. Emotions are big. And everything seems like it's really out of control and that we can't manage.
So when you think about, why do we bother, right? What's the purpose of even learning how to cope with stress, especially in terms of our relationship with our children, right? So it actually builds connection with your child, and you are actually becoming more of a role model if you're learning those skills to try to calm yourself down and be able to deal with your emotions in a more positive and productive way. You're not only establishing that connection, but you're actually being more of a role model. And it improves your parenting because you just become more calm and confident in the way that you deliver your parenting style, right? So you're interacting with them in a very different way than reacting, right? So you're interacting rather than reacting, and you're able to collaborate, and you're problem solving with them on a level that's sort of reaching them at the stage where they're at. You're able to validate their emotional experience and give it um, its worth, really, because a lot of times parents tend to sort of poo-poo a little bit what their children's experience is, because we think, well, why are you crying or whining about that little piece of paper or that toy? But that really had meaning or value to them. It really didn't seem like it to us, but it really did to them. But again, if you're dealing with your emotions and your stress level, you're able to come from that place that can validate that experience for your child, right? It allows you to enjoy more family time as well, right? Because if you're feeling like your environment and your stress is kind of a little bit more under control, not gone, because stress doesn't disappear. Everybody has stress. If we didn't have stress, we would all be dead. Okay, so everybody has some degree of stress in their life, and it is what sort of keeps us moving and going, but we want to be able to manage it. And if it's feeling managed and it's feeling controlled, then you're going to feel like you have that opportunity to sort of fit in those fun family time opportunities, as well as finding time for yourself to fit in those little self-care sort of strategies and rituals, to have that walk, to read that book, to enjoy that cup of tea, to have that soak in the tub, or go out for a coffee with a friend. And you'll feel a little bit more energized and focused, just for getting on top of things, staying more, you know, focused with tasks and chores that you need to get done. So there's a lot of reasons why learning to cope with stress is really a really positive thing to do.
So, what does self-care look like for you? And self-care can be a bit of a trigger word for some people. They feel like it's just one more thing I need to fit into my day, and I have enough going on, and I feel overwhelmed, and I didn't get that in, so now I'm feeling like a failure. So, what are those things that make you feel refueled? Maybe reframing it in your brain instead of that self care. It's not about the pampering and the expensive trips and the spa days, which are always really nice, but reframe it to what refuels you. So, what are those simple things that you can make part of your day and kind of set it up? So a positive affirmation that can be up on your window, on your like mirror or something like that. Maybe you have a dry erase board. Adult coloring sheets. I mean, you can download these for free, have them in a space where you can get them, easily get to them. Anything that's repetitive is calming. If you can't sit down to read a book, maybe you're going to listen to a book. Um, Getting together with friends, it might not be able to happen as often, but you can call someone. You can go outside and say hello to people, as you walk by, or maybe you'll see a neighbor. Taking a bath instead of a shower. What are those things that refuel you? But in the moment when we're in that snow globe, we just think these little things don't matter. I don't have time. But these little things, what they do is if you do a bunch of little things, it accumulates and it helps to lower your stress level so that snow globe isn't, you don't have a blizzard going on constantly, that we're starting to soften the load and we feel like we're more in control. And our happiness scale is what really needs to be lifted. And when we feel happier and we have more gratitude, then everything around us falls into place. It actually really does help. And both Sue and I practice certain things, and it does lower our stress levels. It makes a difference.
Okay, so Haruka's putting up a nice little poll that you can do. So think about, when was the last time that you did something pleasurable and relaxing and fun for yourself? Think about things like, when did you last sort of take an enjoying bath, right? Like a nice, pleasurable bath, right? Hung out with a
Yeah.
friend, spend some time in nature. Um, yes, I realize that we are in COVID times and we need to be, respectful of that. But think about other opportunities that you may have had to, even during lockdown, right? To be able to, you know, just kind of spend a little bit of time taking care of you.
Okay, so both people said this week, so that's wonderful.
Yeah. So you've got
Fantastic.
this. So if you're able to fit it in, right, you want to make sure that you're carving out that time in your schedule, which is fantastic.
Wonderful. Very good.
So seeking balance, it's really about, what exactly does that mean? Because we often throw that term around and, people are like, well, what exactly does that mean? So it's about having a handle on those elements in your life, that you don't really feel, have your heart or your mind being pulled too hard in one direction or another. So it's basically, more often than not, you're feeling sort of calm and grounded and kind of centered. You're not feeling like your head is sort of caught in that snow globe. You're feeling, clear, motivated, like you can get stuff done. You're relatively focused. You can stay on task, stay on point. That's basically what feeling balanced is.
So we kind of thought about, you can't pour from an empty cup. So we were thinking of these jars, right? Um, so what are those energy drainers versus energy lifters? Energy drainers, that negative thinking, hanging out with the wrong people, disorganized life, lack of sleep. doing it all for everyone else. I know that a lot of parents, especially moms, they feel like I might as well just do it myself. It's just easier if I get this done. So this can be draining though. After a while, we start to get resentful and it drains our energy. What are those things that make you feel better? Waking up to a clean kitchen, being able to find, where your running shoes are so you can go for a walk and you put your running shoes right out where you can find them. If you can only find one running shoe, that's really going to stop you, so getting organized, learning to say no, even if it's a no, thank you, and saying, hey, like, I've got to set some boundaries here. And setting boundaries can be really tough because you might upset somebody else, but it's a really important skill. And sleep. So having a bedtime routine sounds a little silly maybe for an adult, but it might be necessary. If you're staying up late, if you're on your electronic for too long, then the blue light keeps you awake. So set a timer, get some sleep. What's your room like? Do you have a comfy pillow? Those kinds of things. Laughing and connecting, which right now has been a big struggle, but how can you do that? And it's just changing your mindset as far as how you can do that, and working together as a team. So if you feel like in your home, you're not working as a team, maybe even at work, or you and your partner are not working as a team and you feel like you're on this journey alone, that's really going to bring you down. So being able to feel connected and everybody's on the same page, or at least in the same book, that's going to help. Oops, did I just, okay. Okay, you're right, Sue?
Yeah, I think there should have been a poll in there somewhere.
Oh,
But that's okay. Go ahead.
okay, okay. All right, so this is kind of tiny, but this is an abundance wheel, so you will get this later. You can search abundance wheels as well because there's many different ones. Or you can just use this one and just don't even worry about what's written on there. You just choose what fits into your life, right? So what are those things that are important to you? So here we've got finances, personal development, family, giving back, happiness, marriage and intimacy, God and spiritual, physical environment. So even your home, maybe your home office, your kitchen, your living room, maybe where it could be just that's a little bit chaotic. So maybe I'd like to paint the walls or get organized or remove some of this furniture. So what you do is you fill this in and you fill it in and you kind of say, okay, 1, not so good. 10, I'm feeling really good. This kind of goes back to what Sue was talking about with balance, and what pieces of pie are higher and what pieces of pie are a little bit lower, right? So this, for example, is what yours might look like. So the higher ones, marriage and intimacy is good. You and your partner are doing well, but as far as adventure and fun, what does that look like? It might be very different than, 20 years ago or 10 years ago. What does adventure and fun look like for you today? And also in environment and our, what's happening this day and age. So what does that look like? And come up with some ideas. Brainstorm yourself. Maybe do this with your partner, do it with a friend. And then you can have an accountability partner to do something, because they might have some ideas as far as what you can do for fun, right? So what does that look like for you? And
And
it's
if
about
the
planning.
categories don't fit, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You
So,
create your own categories, right?
yeah,
Create
for
your own
sure.
categories
Yeah.
that may fit for your life. So don't feel
Mhm.
like you have to be sort of locked into the categories
No.
that are on this particular, wheel, or one that you may download. just blank them out and create your own categories that make sense and fit for you that maybe you want to work with or set some specific life goals or whatnot in certain areas in your life that are meaningful for you. It's still a nice way to sort of evaluate where things are at, right?
Yeah, and when things are out of
Perfect.
balance, then those lower ones can really bring us down. But what you can't say is, but look at the good things that are happening, and these are the places that I am doing well, and I can have more gratitude towards that, and be thankful for that. Then I can focus on the ones that aren't so great. So you're not going to fill everything up. It's not going to be all colored to 10, but at least the numbers will maybe be a little more similar and not have so many ups and downs.
That's a really great point that you bring up, Michelle, because I think that the that graph really shows how we can get stuck in that black and white thinking, right? And we
Yes.
have those negative goggles that we have on where it's like, oh, everything is bad, everything is terrible, there's nothing going right in my life. And we see that a lot in the families that we work with that, people get so stuck into thinking that everything is horrible, and really struggle to even see some of those positive aspects that might be not so bad, or, not that they're ideal by any stretch, but it might be just that way to be able to sort of, just to start to tweak out of some of that negative thinking, and we call it negative goggles sometimes, but it's basically that negative thinking that we get locked into. So I really like that image for that reason as well.
Yeah.
So
And this will
the
all be
other,
sent out in an email to you. Yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely. So the other part of this, sort of taking care of yourself is thinking about how do you spend your time. And how do you spend your time versus how do you actually spend your time? So we may think that we take, an opportunity to take care of ourselves and use our time effectively and efficiently, just like Michelle was talking about some of those energy lifters and energy drainers. There are lots of ways that we, use energy wasters, to sort of drain ourselves. And then we say, well, we don't have time. I don't have time to take that bath. I don't have time to read that book. I don't have time to have that coffee or to go out with a friend or, to do this, the self-care. Who has time for that? I'm a mom. I'm taking care of 4 kids. I don't have time to do this. I've got laundry. I've got dishes. I've got, right? So we'll find excuses. We'll find all kinds of reasons why we don't have time. But if we actually start to try to look at time, how we manage our homes, how we manage and organize our systems in our homes, we may find that we actually do have a little bit of time. Doesn't have to be a lot of time. Again, remember, we talked about it's not necessarily about the big fancy vacation or going to the spa and having the fancy, treatments. It can just be as simple as having a cup of tea and being able to share, 10 or 15 minutes with yourself on a regular basis. Or one of the things that I've even mentioned to people a few times is just, can you have your shower and really enjoy your shower, right? Like, don't just rush through your routine of your day by saying, I get in the shower and I go through my same ritual every day. I grab my same soap, I grab my same sponge, or my loofah or whatever it is I use. I grab the same, soap and I go through my ritual. Just put everything down for a second and, close your eyes and allow the water to kind of run on your face or run on your back. Enjoy the water, right? Just take a few deep breaths. Allow yourself to just kind of pause. There's nothing on your to-do list that you can do in the shower anyway. So why not take those few seconds to just allow yourself to sort of just de-stress a little bit, even if it's just for a minute. It's an opportunity that you can just build into your day without having to really take any really extra time out of your schedule.
Right.
So looking at how you spend your time can really be valuable.
Mhm. And what Sue was talking about is being mindful. And mindful is a big buzzword right now, and it's about being in the moment. And there's actually, if you look up mindful, there's a really cool meme where, are you mindful? Like your mind is full of to-do lists. What do I need to do? Da 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 da. Versus mindful, being in the moment, enjoying the donut, sitting down and having it, enjoying your time with your friend, being focused, walking down the street, noticing nature, that's being in the moment and mindful. But we are so full of all these things going on. And a lot of what Sue is talking about is organization and planning ahead, but you have to make yourself a priority, right? So that time piece that she's mentioned, very important. So what are you missing out on because of time wasters? Okay, so what really can you do? Can you step back a little bit, pay attention? There's apps on your phone that will tell you exactly how much time you're wasting on certain things. So keep track. When you're more aware, you might be surprised that you have some time. So we've got a poll for you.
This was the poll that I knew was coming.
Yeah.
Take a second and just fill out the poll if you would.
Can you fill out more than one?
I can't see the whole list, so I don't know if they
You
can
just
fill
gotta,
out. Can they
there's
fill
just a
out more than
cursor
one?
there.
Oh, there it is. Ooh.
Oh, it may only be allowing folks to fill out one, so I can change.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure there's lots of things that are time wasters, not just.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe, Berka, are you changing that? It looks like she might be changing it. Okay.
Yes, it should be.
Okay, so now you can fill
Okay,
in
so you can.
all that, yeah, fill in all that applies. Okay, now we're talking. Now we've got more things filling in here.
And, Haruka, I think somebody has a hand up, I believe.
Yes, I do see that. Did you have a, if there's any questions, feel free to share in the comment box as well, if that's easier on your end.
Oh,
Oh, subscription TV, is that the truth? Social media, look at that.
video games, texting. Yeah. So you're not alone. It's so easy. It's right there, right? I mean, do you actually watch a full show like 100%? I know I don't. I'm usually on my phone doing other things, right? I have a few electronics on at the same time. So something to be aware of. Maybe download the app. There's people that will actually turn their cell phones off completely or put in a do not disturb, like sleep mode. So they're not getting those things happening on a regular basis. I mean, I'm guilty of subscription TV. I mean, when the TV says, "Are you still there?" I'm like, "Uh-oh, have I been watching this for too long?" Right? So we've been there. It's when it happens on a regular basis that's when we have to kind of catch it, especially when we're saying we don't have enough time and then we've binged watched a whole series of something. So is it refueling you or is it draining your energy? And sometimes watching some TV is okay. This is not about guilt, but is it refueling you? Because sometimes we just shut the world down and that's not healthy coping. So it's finding that balance. Okay, so keep track of it. Pay attention to time and
Awesome.
how long you've been watching. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's very good.
And even with the shopping, yeah, let's make that actual shopping list. Do we really need
Yeah, not
it?
just
Or do we really
browsing.
need to keep surfing?
Right. What do
Right?
I
It's like,
need?
oh, what's on
What if it
sale? What's on sale?
deals?
Right? Right? And how many things do we just put into our little shopping cart, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, make the shopping list. Make the shopping list.
And it
Absolutely.
could be I've unsubscribed to lots of things. Lots of things. So we don't get hooked in. Right? There's another sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, so thinking about how you spend your time is also really helpful. So this is a way that you can do this. You can actually just sort of create like a little chart for yourself and think about, if you broke it down, into sort of, chunks of time, right? So like leisure, sleep, activity, hygiene as a whole, like you're getting ready and you're, for waking up in the morning and getting ready at the end of the day for your sleep routine, different hobbies, chores, things like that, and other, or however you would break your day down, right? Family time, commitments, time with partner, chores, time with self, meals. We're just giving some examples. And basically the idea is that the hours in the day should add up to 24, right? So make sure that you always sort of fill in like a sleep section, um, because that should be the biggest chunk of your day, one of the biggest chunks of your day, or if you have, work or something like that, that would be another big chunk of your day. And then, try to see if you can get it to 24, but put in time for self, right? And see if you can, sort of break it down. Where am I using my time? Um, because you might see that this is where I'm out of balance, right? I'm spending too much time in one particular area and not enough time in others, right? So if I looked at this, I'm not spending any time with my partner, not really doing any family stuff, I'm not doing any leisure or activity, right? So my physical stuff isn't getting done, but I'm spending all kinds of time on chores, and I've got some time for myself, lots of time on meals, and my hygiene is good, right? But I'm missing out on some other stuff that's important as well. So
Yeah.
it's a way to think about how can I balance out my time, right? So you can use that as a way as well.
Mhm. And we were talking about apps to help with time wasters. So here's some ideas for you. You may be able to find other ones. I know on Instagram they'll just tell you if you go to your insights, it'll tell you how long you've been on there on average. Um, and then we want to think about our automatic reactions. So what do we do? What we do that feels better in the time of chaos, right? There's that fight or flight or freeze response. Are we the people that kind of our heads pop off? We do a lot of yelling and screaming. We get angry. Or do we shut down? Do we sleep? Do we ignore people? Do we have a hard time communicating? So we just shut it down because it brings up emotion. There's no point. It's not going to change anything. So being aware of your patterns and trying to change that, trying to pause and catch that. And you can do that on your own, but sometimes these patterns have been around for a long time and we need some help. And it could be with a therapist. You know, a lot of people, there's social workers that are attached to your doctor. You know, there's Mind Beacon that's free, Bounce Back, lots of things that will help you. And it's a lot of online things, but at least will help you with some of that reframing, especially when your anxiety or the stress is getting high. Sometimes we need to get extra help so we can get some more direction as to how do we stop those patterns. So instead of the panic, instead of avoiding, instead of shutting down, that we have more healthy coping strategies that are serving us, right?
So when you're trying to make the shift, right? So we have those unhelpful sort of behaviors and thoughts, and then we have helpful behaviors and thoughts, right? So we can sit sort of stuck in denial, or we can try to seek some solutions, right? We can get lost in sort of that, wishful thinking, right? That I wish this was like this. I wish this was this way. I wish my kids were like this. I wish my house was like this. Or we can learn how to ask for help. Asking for help is a very specific skill. And a lot of people are fearful of asking for help because they feel that they're going to be judged if they ask for help, or that it says something about themselves, or that they're less than, or that they should have known better, or they should have known how to do it for themselves in the first place. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Asking for help is just a sign that says, you know what, I need some support. We can get stuck, thinking the worst, or we can learn how to have some compassion for ourselves and forgive yourself. We do an exercise in some of our other workshops about self-compassion, where we say, like if you had a friend, that needed some support, what kind of kindness or compassion would you say to a friend? But you wouldn't say it to yourself, right? So you might say nice things to a friend that was sort of stuck thinking the worst about a situation, or something that may have happened. But if I get into that same situation, I might think, well, I'm such a loser. Why did I do that? I could have done it differently, rather than saying, hey, I tried my best, right? So, have some forgiveness for yourself, have some self-compassion, right? Um, Watch the blaming game, right? Whether I'm blaming myself or I'm blaming others, right? You can get caught into that blaming game, and, set some priorities, watch the boundaries, um, numbing it out, right? So substance abuse, being cautious, having the occasional glass of wine is okay, but if you're, using alcohol or other substances to sort of numb out and avoid having to deal with situations, then that's not an okay situation, and we need to reach out and get some help, because it's not allowing us to stay in the moment, right? And we need to be able to be present in the moment, to have gratitude for what are those positives. And remember, when we talked about that wheel of abundance and that wheel of life, we need to have our clear glasses and our clear vision to be able to see, what are those other positive areas in our life that are going okay, looking for the good things. When we talk about behavior with our kids and wanting to praise positive behavior, we're talking about praising positive behavior in ourselves as well. And the things that are going well, the things that feel well, the things that bring us joy, the things that make our hearts sing, right? And when you're zoning out and you're getting caught in that sort of avoidance behavior where you're wanting to just run away, get in the car, drive away, not that going for a drive is all such a bad idea sometimes, but if you're doing it all the time to avoid having to deal with situations, maybe you need to take a look at that, right? Maybe you need to start figuring out, how can I start to become a little bit more aware of my emotions? How do I start to deal with my feelings a little bit differently, and finding other alternatives to maybe tone down those emotions? What other tools do I have that are available to me that I can use to be able to be a little bit more resilient with managing my emotions. And that's going to go a long distance to helping you to model that with your kids as well.
Okay, so we have a little scenario here. We've got a stressful morning at my house. So what does that look like? Today I woke up to screaming and crying. The 15-year-old slept in and couldn't find their gym bag. The 10 and 8-year-old were fighting over the last morsel of breakfast cereal. There was a sink full of dishes, and the dog had gotten into the garbage that my partner was supposed to take out last night. My head was pounding, and I know we are going to be late. My mornings never work out, and I didn't even have time for a shower. So, what's going on here? What are some of the things that are out of her control that we tend to get really upset about? What can you do in this moment? You know, what is something she could even just say to herself to validate herself in that moment, to be able to calm down? Any thoughts? You can just put them in the chat.
Nothing? Nobody?
Okay. So in this
So
moment,
Michelle, if you woke up to a 15-year-old that was screaming and crying because they couldn't find, how would you be feeling?
I feel overwhelmed. I mean, there's a lot of chaos. I'd be really annoyed about the garbage, because if I leave the garbage, the dog's gonna eat it. and this is all just left for me. Great. Resentment, overwhelm, and I can kind of
Are you happy with your husband?
I am not
Are
happy
you
with
happy
my
with your
husband.
husband that he didn't take the garbage out?
Or the dog. Yes.
Or the dog. The
That's
poor
right.
dog.
Yeah, and then I might be
He's doing what
thinking,
comes naturally.
15 years old, right? This child's 15 years old. They need to figure it out. What's going on? It's only cereal. Like, we've got 30 other cereals, but you have to fight over this one? Like, this is all the stuff that in the moment is what's coming up. So guess what? I don't
Last
have a lot
time
of
we went shopping.
anybody.
Last time we went shopping, this is what you wanted.
Yeah.
This is what you picked
Yes.
out.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And now I'm going to be late for work, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No
So we've
shower
got
for mom. Poor mom. She doesn't have it to breathe.
That's right. So we've
Right?
got
So
some great
she's
suggestions here.
hugely over.
Yeah. So we do have some great suggestions here. Maybe if she had more of a positive attitude, there is a suggestion of setting a routine. If I find I'm negative mood, it attracts a negative outcome. I mean, very, very good insight from the participants that you're right. In the moment, though, we might lose it. All this stuff comes in and we might lose it. So what do? We tend, when we're overwhelmed, to do more, less planning. We just get sucked in. And then this moment of time is going to stay with me for the whole day. It's just going to ruin my whole day. And that text is going to my husband or my partner right now to let them know, look at what you did to me, da 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 da. So, just like was said, if I'm negative, I'm going to create more of that, right? So in the moment, can I take a deep breath? Can I step out, right? Do the kids have to get to school right on time? No, they're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. And you know what? That's fine. And I'm going to treat myself to maybe a Starbucks on the way home from dropping them off, or the natural consequences, they walk to school and they get there late and they're going to have to deal with it. How much do I have to
Yeah.
do right now? Right? Yeah. So very, very good
And maybe I have
suggestions.
a conversation with my husband after the fact as well, because there's a piece of about that sort of communication as well, right? So she's not happy with the husband situation, so that may be something that she needs to do after the fact as well, is have a conversation about, you know, listen, we need to get on the same page here, right?
Yeah.
Or at least in the
Yeah.
same book, right?
And we
About
can also,
sharing responsibilities.
sure. And sometimes it happens, you forget, right? But we get into this, they
Yes.
never follow through. This always happens. Every morning is like this. So
Always.
yes, a routine would be helpful. We might have to talk to the 15-year-old about maybe their electronics are keeping them up too late at night. We're giving them a lot of freedom. They're not proving to us that they're able to do this. Is this just one day? Or is this on a regular basis? Do we
Stop.
need a spot for the gym bag, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
all those things.
And sometimes you just have a bad day.
Yes.
Sometimes we
Hmm.
just have a bad day.
Yeah.
So is this an all the time? Because if it's an all the time, then that's a different story versus this was just a really bad day,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
there's that too.
Yeah. And it's making that change and not bringing it through your whole day. That this morning ruined things, that we
Absolutely.
can take that power back. Yeah.
And start fresh, right? Start fresh the next day.
Yeah.
So I like this sort of like this is kind of exactly what you were talking about, in terms of the negative mood and attracting a negative outcome, right? So, oh, this poor dad. I love this dad. Overwhelmed, right? Very overwhelmed, right? Negative thinking. I don't even think he can breathe. Negative thinking. You know, feels very defeated. He's out of control. Like, what am I going to do here? The kid's got his fingers up my nose.
Yeah.
And he's probably going to lose it here, right? Or somebody's going to get dropped on their head because he's going to drop and let go of somebody. So, and he yells and he gives up. So he does. It's I'm done, right? So again, if I call in that negative thinking, then this is where it's going to go. But he could probably, choose to have a different outlook. Whoop,
Well,
whoop.
ah,
There you go.
yeah.
Back one.
So, oh,
There you go.
really? No, no, it's this one, then this one. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
So don't get stuck. All right, we get stuck and it happens. You get stuck. It's okay. It's when it's happening on a regular basis that we have to say, I'm fighting fires. It's every day that we're dealing with yourself with these things. So forgive yourself, plan ahead. That routine was a great idea from one of the participants. Try something new and different. Switch it up. If this isn't working, let's try something else. Make self-care a priority and change your action step. Okay.
So there's an interesting question, Michelle, in the room, if you
Yeah,
want to try to answer this. It says, what
sure.
happens if one of your children is always putting us in a bad mood and always angry and stomping around disrespectful?
So that's not an in the moment kind of thing that you can deal with. I'm also noticing you're using that word always, right? So that can be a thinking trap, that always or never. They never listen. They're always miserable. Is that really the case? So what does that mean for the child? The thing is to sit down with your child to talk about these things can be very frustrating because we see that they're an energy sucker, they're miserable. Just be happy. Your life is fine. I bought you the cereal you wanted. You're in grade 5. What's the big deal, right? And when we feel like our head is barely above water, then it's really tough to try to sit down and have this conversation. So that's why self-care is so important, so we can lower our stress levels and change our mindset. And you can change your mindset when you're feeling better, because the resentment, the overwhelm, the frustration takes over, and then we act a certain way. But if we can reframe our thinking, feel a little bit calmer with our stress levels, we can reframe our thinking to say, this child is not trying to give us a hard time. They're having a hard time themselves, right? So they're really struggling. The other thing too is parents expect that their children are like skipping around and happy all the time. You do not need to give attention to that, right? But it can be really hard. And some of us are very sensitive ourselves. You may have very sensitive children that are easily irritated by the chaos in the home, or the child that's eating their cereal too loud, so they're miserable. And then we think we've got to yell at this one needs to be happy. And sometimes we have to learn that we can't absorb other people's negative energy, right? You can validate that child and say, it looks like you're having a really hard day. Do you need some space? Do you need a hug? But really, it's about saying, every morning we're struggling, or I'm noticing that your mood is really low on a regular basis. So what are those things that make you feel happy? Or what are those things that are really bugging you? This is not a black and white answer. It's just a lot of digging. We have a workshop on emotions in motion, how to validate your child. We have a series called Managing Meltdowns. So many other ways to kind of dig through things. But in all of our workshops, we talk about self-care for the parent and taking care of our own mental health and our own mental wellness. Because when our children are draining, it just sucks more out of us. So trying not to hook into that, and then figuring out what's going on underneath, how can we support them, and do that planning ahead. So it's a long answer and not an easy answer.
Perfect. I tried to capture some of what you were saying and shared that.
Thank you. Perfect.
So yeah, so on the flip side of this, so instead of the other, response, this dad may feel overwhelmed. He takes that deep breath. He kind of prioritizes how he's going to respond to his child. He feels calmer. He feels more in charge, and he can kind of try to get the routine back on track, right?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So you want to make that positive, you want to make a positive change here, right? So, make a list of the things for yourself. Again, this is for you, right? This is for you that we're talking about. That make a list of the things for yourself that, I like and that I want to keep, right? So what are those things that are meaningful to you, that are special, and that you really like, that you want to keep? So things that are working, things that are productive, things that are going well, that are really, that you're like, yep, I want to keep this in place. This is something that's working for me right now. And then make a list of healthy choices that you have made, right? So, most of us have all sort of had different goals and things that we've worked on over time, that it's like, yep, you know what, this is something that I've done and I've achieved, and I want to acknowledge that. So make a list of some of those choices that you've made. And then make a list for yourself of some of the things that you would like to change. And don't do the, 1 to 20 kind of thing, but do kind of like your top 3 to 5, right? Just some things that you want to change and maybe start to shift in a different direction. But the thing about this is that we want to challenge you to think about, how are you going to make that happen? What is it you need to have in place to make that change? We can all set goals. We can all sort of, wine and dine some ideas in our brain about, oh, I'd really like to do this, or I'd really like to do that, or I want to, set this fancy goal for myself. But then we never really implement the things that we need to have in place to actually manifest having it happen, right? Because I may need to have additional support. I may need to have some childcare. I may need to arrange my schedule a little bit differently. Maybe I need to have some special tools or things, like if I want to do some journaling or some creative outlets, I may need to have some different tools. Or, if it's a sporting thing, I may need to have some equipment. Maybe I need to get myself a yoga mat. Whatever it is, what is it that you need to have to make that change in your life happen? Okay, so really commit yourselves to thinking that part through, because that's where the shift will happen, is if you make that commitment. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also about the best way that you feel motivated. Some people feel motivated by external pressures, so like signing up for a 5K run or joining the gym with a friend that will come and pick you up at 6 a.m. And some people are more of that internal piece. This feels good. It's something that I like to do. I'll be able to follow through. You might need a little bit of a mixture of both. And really, a lot of habits are not fun in the beginning, right? That it's just like, doesn't feel good. But the more that you just push through that, try to acknowledge the effort, and eventually you'll get there. Sometimes we have to mix things up and say, okay, this isn't working. But usually new habits and things like that are hard, right? Because it's just easier not to do them. But try to think of the effort. So in the beginning,
Here's some resources.
Yeah, bounce back and
Yeah, some resources that are very helpful. I know Michelle mentioned Mind Beacon. That's a free resource paid for by the Ontario government right now for Ontario residents. So strongly recommend you checking into that. And there's definitely some other really good resources there as well.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions
Does
for
anybody
us?
have any questions?
Anything that maybe is
Okay,
getting in?
so you guys have,
Sorry, go ahead.
that's okay.
Yeah, anything getting in the way that you're not able to follow through on things? So just some questions to ask, and if not, go ahead, Sue.
I was just going to say, if there's no questions and you guys are ready to hopefully start to make some of those changes that we've been talking about, and looking at what's out of balance and where you want to start to make some small goals and changes. And thank you for joining us.
Yep. There will be a follow-up email, definitely.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sue and Michelle, and I apologize for the technology or challenges around technology today. I appreciate all of your patience, and the session is recorded, so you're able to watch it again in a later time. As well, the different links and resources will be shared on the resource page. You'll receive that by email.
That's great. Thank you, Haruka.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone.